Hey everyone, Adam here. Before today's show, I ask you all please to go over to my Instagram and give me a follow at Behind the Life Podcast. I'm also now on Twitter at Behind the Life 3. You can now listen to all episodes on Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn, and just say, Alexa, play Behind the Life Podcast. Enjoy today's episode. On today's show, I'm going behind the life of Paul Connolly. Paul is an extraordinary person. He's a father, a best-selling author, and a fitness instructor. However, there is much more to it than that. Paul was abandoned in a dustbin as a 2-week-old baby. He then spent his childhood years in a children's home in Essex, where he suffered abuse and child friends around him were sexually exploited. After being expelled from school, he was on his way to becoming a professional boxer when he suffered a career-ending injury. However, Paul is a fighter and a battler. In 1988, he became the first personal trainer in the City of London and went on to work with supermodel Elle Macpherson and the original Superman Christopher Reeve. He now has his own business called Specialist Conditioning, where he is a coach, personal trainer, massage therapist and physical rehabilitation exerciser. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Behind the Life of Paul Connolly. Hi Paul, how are you?
Hi Adam, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, really good to talk to you.
You too as well.
Yeah, thanks for that intro. Yeah, there is a lot more to me, but I'm sure we'll find all that out.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to Behind Life Podcast. So it's a show where I talk to interesting people about their interesting lives, things like the start, the in-between and the end. So I'm really happy you come onto the show.
Sure.
Let's talk about your life, Paul, in a chronological order. So you're from an Irish Catholic family in Stratford, East London. You were the youngest of 8, and at 2 weeks old, your mum abandoned you literally amongst rubbish bins.
Yeah.
Looking back now, Paul, why do you think she did this?
Well, I don't know if you know much about the Catholic religion. It's against the religion to use condoms and contraceptives, and they tend to have lots of kids and not be able to look after them. Unfortunately, or fortunately, really, I was the 7th son of the 7th son, so I was the 7th boy and 1 girl, and I was the last. And I can only, when you leave the care system, you read your files. So obviously I had a good read of the files when I left, and it said she had some kind of breakdown, but she died recently, funnily enough. I didn't know the lady, to be quite honest with you. So, just one of them things, she's a stranger to me. I know you better than her, Adam, already.
Thank you, Paul. Well, you talk so openly in your book Against All Odds that you wrote several years ago about a lady called Mary Littler. Yeah. Tell me a bit more about her and why did she not adopt you?
Well, Mary was a nurse at the children's home, the first children's home I was sent to, which was St Vincent's in Mill Hill, North London, Hendon, for those who know that area. She's a lovely lady. She was only about 18 when she was looking after me, as I was a 2-week-old baby. My mum put me out with the rubbish at 2 weeks, and I was obviously, I think someone called social services, and I was looked after by nuns and nurses until I was 7, nearly 8. Mary talked like the Queen. She's very posh. She's from the South Coast. She lived down in the New Forest, and she used to take me down as a baby for holidays, and sort of she tried to adopt me, but unfortunately, although my mother didn't want me, she didn't want to give up the rights to me. So it was one of those where I couldn't have got adopted, unfortunately, because my mother wouldn't give up the rights. It's a bit strange, really, but there you go.
Yeah, and you talked before about your mum who you didn't really know who passed obviously recently. Looking back now, how much resentment do you have towards her?
How much what, sorry?
Resentment do you have towards your mother?
I used to have quite a bit. I don't these days, really. I've done quite a lot of work on myself. I've done all my Reiki 1, 2 and the Masters, and last year I just finished a life coaching course. So I do quite a lot of work a lot of work on myself. I'm in therapy at the moment. It's funny, 58 years old, still in therapy, still needing therapy. But and it's like all of these things. It's like what I do. I do a lot more specialised stuff these days. I work with kids with scoliosis. So I'm a specialist conditioning coach and a sports injury specialist. So I get people out of pain and get people right that no one else seems to be able to do it. No one, they go everywhere and they come to me and they wish they'd come to me. But it's funny because you're just finding someone who's right when it comes to working with people, And I found a really good therapist that I'm with at the moment, and she's I think they call it inner child therapist. So I'm going back and I'm dealing with my inner child at the moment. I was parenting myself as a child and going back and trying to, because even now at 58 or nearly 58, I can revert into a child if things get stressful, which is crazy, right? Crazy, but this is what happens to a lot of people if they've got childhood issues. When they, as adults, when things get shit hits the fan, they turn into kids. It causes a lot of problems in society, So it's all about learning about yourself and why you do these things and trying to change them, Yeah. But it's hard work. I was, going back, and I'm going all over the place already. Sorry, Adam.
Okay.
Going back to my, we're going to get to this. Obviously, the people that abused me, it's not just the sexual abuse and the physical beatings. The mental abuse and the neglect is pretty damaging. I think that's just as damaging.
Yeah.
But I've gone right off subject.
No, it's really interesting, and you touched on your bit before about still going through therapy now, and I think it's true what people say. Anybody out there who's not had counselling, and my message personally to them is, you need to be comfortable with that person you're talking to. So if you feel like there's no connection there, you need to go and find another therapist.
I've seen probably over a dozen therapists, counsellors, whatever they want to call themselves. That I've qualified myself, and I've only seen 2 that have helped me.
Wow.
So it is. You have to find what works for you, and you have to start knowing yourself, knowing who you are, and what works for you, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself about when you fuck up and why you fuck up and all of those things. Too many people are not open even with themselves. So if they're not open with themselves, how the hell are they going to be open with somebody else,
Exactly. It's not a box ticking exercise, as you said.
No.
If you're not going to be open, then what's the fucking point?
Exactly. And I was just giving evidence last year in the government's historical child abuse case, where I was the only witness in my children's home of 300 kids, which is really unbelievable, right? So you've got a children's home of 300 children run by a paedophile ring. I'm the only witness giving evidence because they're either lost in marbles, dead, or in prison, right? So I was the only one who gave evidence. And one of the questions that they asked me was, what have you done to help yourself, with regards to therapy and things like that? I said, well, they seem to think that one size fits all. And I said, look, it's simple. Everybody's different. I've got very spiritual. I've had so many things happen to me that you wouldn't believe. I mean, I know you've read Against All Odds, but the new book, Not Normal, which is 10 years on, is a lot more comprehensive, and there's a lot more happened in the last 10 years as well. And you have to know, like, where what's going to work for me therapy wise is not going to work for you, Adam, so they just it's never that simple. We're all very complex as human beings. And also, like, psychosomatic things, like most people who have horrendous childhoods don't live very long because their mind kills them rather than their bodies,
Yeah,
your mind tells your body what to do,
Well, obviously, let's, as we touched on at the start, you were abandoned by your mum when you were 2 weeks old.
Yeah.
You eventually made your way into Mill Hill, the nuns' convent, where you were there till you were 7 years old.
Yeah.
What memories do you have, if any, from there, Paul?
Nothing dramatic. The nuns. Some of the nuns were vicious. Some of the nuns were lovely. The nurses were all nice. Big beds, big dormitories, showers, no baths. Us doing some crazy stuff, jumping from windowsill to windowsills high up when we were like 3, 4, 5 years old. Stupid things that kids do, especially when there's peer pressure. I don't remember a hell of a lot about that place, to be fair. All I know is I wasn't abused in the way I was when I just before your 8th birthday. I had to move to the big boys children's home in St Leonard's in Hornchurch in Essex, which was a London Borough of Tower Hamlets children's home, which was run by a paedophile ring, which was, horrendous, to be quite honest with you. Everything changed on my 8th birthday. So,
yes. Yeah. So was that the natural progression from people going to Mill Hill to St Leonard's?
I don't think in every case, but it certainly was in mine. They moved me there. And I had a house father called Bill Starling, and his wife was called Daphne Starling. He was a lorry driver. She was a cleaner. And all of a sudden, they're looking after 30 kids in a separate unit on a driveway with another 13, 14 cottages with the same type of facility on it. So each cottage had 30 kids in it, and it was all on one big site.
Was there no thing such as children's services back then?
Do you know what? They certainly couldn't have bettered him. He was an extremely violent man. She was a really fucked up woman who, in fact, it's only recently in my with my therapy that I'm realizing she really fucked me up, and I'm nearly 60, right? Yeah. So she's just a very angry woman who seemed to make herself feel better by putting other kids down. She used to tell me, because I was the youngest of all my brothers, I went through there after my brothers, and I don't know if they pissed her off, but she just hated me, this woman. My first night, she dragged, all kids wet the bed in children's homes, right? So I moved to a new children's home, I wet the bed, she dragged me out in the morning, cold bath, bleach, scrubbing brush, fucking scrubbed me till I bled, and then started the mental torture. Well, you're Irish fucking cannon fodder, you're going to be dead by the time you're 30, you'll be in prison, nobody loves you. If you were normal, you wouldn't be here. You're not normal, and hence the title of the third book, Not Normal. So
that's almost bounding on being pure fucking evil.
Yeah, she was a very evil woman, and she was very angry about something. And obviously, little children, little boys, are easy to take it out on, aren't they? Yeah. And unfortunately, when someone says those things to you every day for nearly 12 years, that stuff's quite hardwired, and it's it takes a lot of getting rid of.
So, at what stage in your childhood did you realise, hang on, my life's not what it should be? I'm not with my mum and dad.
Well, that was very early on. That was like 3, maybe 4.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. You realise, oh shit, I'm alone in the world. Yeah. This ain't right. I don't think I should be alone in the world. I'm only, I'm a baby basically. But yeah, you just really think, shit, this don't seem right. And you all of a sudden like they said in my file, I went from this lovable little baby who was, cuddled everyone, who loved everyone, to this aggressive, like, child who was very withdrawn. Yeah, almost overnight.
Did you have to be aggressive to stick up for yourself?
Do you know what? I did eventually, but that was quite later on. I mean, I think as well, because if you grow up without any sense of identity, any sense of who you are, any sense of, no self-esteem, extremely low self-worth, and you tend to do everything quite late, and you tend to be a real late developer. Mm. So right up until I would say I was 15, 16, maybe even older, I was frightened of my own shadow, even though I boxed. I was frightened of my own shadow. I was bullied relentlessly. I mean, I had a horrendous time at school, in the homes. I had nowhere to go where I wasn't bullied. So I would be beaten by the staff in the homes, the older kids in the homes, or I'd be bullied at school. There's lots of reasons for that as well. I was, relentlessly bullied at school. I was caned every day. So eventually I got sick of being afraid.
Yeah.
And that's when I turned into this monster, almost overnight. I think it's when I got stabbed for the first time. I'm still here. This dick wasn't that bad. Why am I frightened? And then I used to seek the violence out. And then I used to enjoy when people were frightened of me. And I realised, shit, I should have done this years ago. you know. But I think with me, Adam, I was quite a sensitive child, and I was quite a sensitive kid, and I turned into something that I would never have been, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you know, talking about being a sensitive kid, did you just want to be loved?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. You know, funnily enough, I was talking to the therapist yesterday. I had a little session yesterday, and she said the woman that was supposed to love you and look after you actually couldn't give a shit about you. Not talking about my mother, funny enough. She's talking about the woman who in the children's home. It wasn't just the fact that she didn't love you, she didn't care about you, there was no love at all. It was the fact that you were basically ignored, absolute total neglect, So,
yeah.
it's that's quite a lot to deal with when you're just a young
Mate,
7, 8-year-old kid.
It's more than a lot. And is it true even when you were 8 years old, you were sleeping with a knife under your pillow?
Yeah, well, when I went to that children's home, they used to have rape squads come up the fire escape and come in and drag the kids out and take them off to the staff quarters and rape them. And I wasn't aware of this. Obviously, I'd only just turned up there, and nobody talked about it. And I think it was the second night or third night I was there. They come back from the pub, masked up the fire escape, boot the door in. I saw all these kids running around, screaming, crying. All these little young kids, some of them younger than me, some as young as 4 or 5. I was 8, and I saw these men in masks grabbing them up and dragging them off. One of them grabbed hold of me. I bit his hand, and basically I scurried under the bed, and he grabbed another kid and went off.
Wow.
And then I realised, what is going on here? And I still didn't realise what they were doing. I was 8, right? I didn't know. Sex when you're 8, do you? Especially that kind of thing, paedophiles and things like that. You have no concept of what that is. Well, I didn't. Not then.
Yeah.
Then I spoke to one of the black kids there. I said, what the fuck are they doing? He said, they're raping them. I said, what's rape?
Yeah, you didn't know any different.
I don't know what rape was. I said, what's rape? And he said, he explained it to me as graphic as you like. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, where have I just come to? What is this place? Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, Paul, go on.
Go on, no, you go.
Yeah, was there ever any moments when you just wanted to run away?
There was nowhere to go. When you don't. Well, the first thing is I've been moved to a children's home. I don't know where I am. Right? I don't. I'm 8 years old. I don't know where I'm living. I don't even know the area. I don't know where I haven't got a clue. And this is a unit. It's a massive unit. I wouldn't even know how to find my way out of the unit. You're just a little kid, aren't you? I mean, it never entered my mind, to be honest with you. I just thought I need to get something to look after myself. So late, I went down to there's a big larder facility there, and I managed to jimmy the door open on the larder. It wasn't even locked. It was just stiff. And there was a kitchen knife sitting in a lump of cheese, like a short handle kitchen knife. And I fucking grabbed that, and that I slept with that then for the next 5 years, 6 years. And that was my comfort blanket. Like a normal kid would have a teddy bear. That was my comfort blanket. And then when they came, I went under the beds with the knife, and anyone tried to grab under the bed, I'd stab them with the knife. Just stab him. Well, I certainly did. Yeah, I swung out. I think I caught a few of them. But what they would do was just go for the easier kids, go for the easier kids. And so my saving grace was that I wasn't raped. I wasn't buggered. There was a few attempts. Even when I was older. There was a few attempts, but I managed, for it not to happen.
Well, it's what I touched on about your book. It is, your memoirs, so to speak, they're so open and so honest. And we'll come on in a bit about, what happened to all the other kids in your dorm. Let's just talk about your best friend, Liam, that you were with at St. Leonard's. What sort of guy was he?
Liam was the toughest kid there. He was the nicest kid. I looked up to Liam, very much looked up to him. But what I didn't know at the time was Liam had been sexually abused from as young as, I think it was like 2 or 3 years old. I didn't know that because when I met Liam, we were like 8. I was 8, 9. He was 8, 9. We went to this Catholic school together in the vans. We were taken down in the vans to the Catholic school outside the facility. And I got to know him, and we used to, you know, he was an Irish kid. I was an Irish kid. We were a couple of white Irish kids, a lot of black kids in the children's homes who were friends of ours as well. But obviously, we just had a bit of a connection. And I didn't realise that Liam killed himself when he jumped on the railway track at Elephant Castle when he was, I think, late 20s. The movie's dedicated to Liam, and it's
lovely. Yeah. But he played. You've had lots of defining moments in your life, and he was there. One of the most, in my eyes, one of the most defining moments when you were 9 years old and you were out walking with him, and you came across a boxing club.
Yeah.
In London. How life changing was that when you stepped inside, and what actually made you go inside a boxing club?
Well, we used to bunk off school because me in particular, I didn't get on with anyone at school, and there was a few things that went on, which basically means that if I went to school, I'd either have a fight or get the cane or both. So I used to try not to go. And we walked past this Dagenham boxing club in East London, and we saw a couple of guys standing outside. And we used to walk past it quite a lot, and always used to say, let's go in. And we would never had the bottle to do it, you know. And then this one particular day, I said, there's a couple of blokes there. And we went, oi, like something like that, you know. Like, and we expected them to be like, we'd never met any sort of good male role models up until that point. We expected them to tell us to fuck off, do you know what I mean? And they went, all right, boys, how you doing? And they were friendly. And we're like, what are you doing? They went, shouldn't you be at school? We went, yeah. And then one of them seemed to know. He said, oh, you from the homes? And we said, yeah. And he went, oh, come in, and all that. And we said, fucking hell, what if they try and rape us? Because that's the first thought that goes through your head, obviously, where we come from. And there was a guy there called Tommy Butler, Lenny McLean, I used to work with, he was on the doors. Lenny Wilson, Alan Mayhew, and these guys were just decent fellas who run a local boxing club. And they said, why don't you come in, have a go and all that. And so I had absolutely no interest in boxing at all. It just didn't interest me at all. And Liam was Liam was much more confident than me. He said, come on, Jacko. I mean, he used to call me Jacko as a kid, Jack the Lad and all that. So we went in and we had a little go, and there was one of their wives was there, Kathy, and she said, you're tiny. How old are you? We said, like 9. She said, you look about 6. Because they used to steal the most. They used to steal the money for the food, you see, and we got their minimum rations, you know, because the staff weren't only. They used to, they used to skim off the top. We were tiny kids, and she went, "You're joking! I can't believe your age." Anyways, the next time we went up, and they said, "Oh, come in, always pop in and say hello." She had a load of sandwiches there, and we fucking washed them down.
Yeah,
it's like, are you being starved? And we said, well, basically, yeah. So she would always bring food for us, and obviously we got into the boxing and we were training, and it was just brilliant because we actually had someone who showed an interest in us, you know.
And that really sort of, sorry, go on, Paul.
And he fed us as well.
Yeah, and that sort of changed your attitude towards, I suppose, life. It must have made you think, you know what, there are some good people in life.
Yeah,
people
and
that I can trust.
There were other boxing coaches there as well who were like geezers. Do you know what I mean? They were doormen. Some of, you know, I don't like to use the word gangsters, but they were proper fellas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were great role models for us, you know. And I often say, you know, if my role models were, I don't know, if I'd say Mary would have adopted me, I'd have been talking much posher, wouldn't I? And I would have had a very different life.
I don't think we'd be doing this, Paul. To be fair,
no. And it's your mentors at the end of the day. Like my mentors were gangsters, so I became a gangster, you know.
Yeah. And
because that's go on.
Yeah, well, I was about just touch on your boxing. Yeah, just carry on about the gangster bit.
Well, back in the day, when you know, gangsters are a very loose term. These guys, I don't like calling them gangsters. They worked in security. No one fucked about with them, but they had a moral code. You know, they never took liberties with anyone. They weren't bullies. They did what they had to do. You know, and you know, one of them, they saved my life effectively because they stopped a lot of my beatings, which, you know, I was pretty much could have been killed, the amount of beatings I was taking off of Bill Starley at the time. You know, I was a tiny kid, and he was punching me across the room like I was a fully grown man, you know, and I was a tiny little kid. And, you know, I reckon not only did they stop the beatings, they probably saved my life, because I think eventually he would have killed me, you know, because he just used to love punching the shit out of me, you know. And there was an on-site sick bay, so you never went to hospital. There was no records.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I was saying to you about the new book's got a lot more in it than the old books. Is 10 years old,
Yeah.
and it's just a different ghostwriter, and she dragged it all out of me. Nearly give me a breakdown, but it was worth it.
Well, I was about to say, the first book, you had to write that away from your family home, didn't you? Is that right?
Sorry, say that again.
So your first book, Against All Odds,
Yeah.
I've heard an issue in the past that you had to, you wrote that away from your family home because it was creating so much trauma.
Yeah. I still sleep downstairs in my home now because I still have nightmares, and I wake up and I wake the wife up and I scare the kids. So I don't even sleep upstairs. I'm still very hyper vigilant, and you know, I still have to have certain, you know, do things in a certain way, unfortunately. But, you know, I'm better than I was, and I'm still on the comeback trail, as they say, doing the therapy. And the last book, Not Normal, it was a really tough book because Shannon Kai is Jade Goody's deathbed ghostwriter, and she's this hard-bitten journalist. And I was in the middle of making the movie with Michael Socher and Zoe Tapper, and giving evidence in the government historical child abuse case, and doing 60 hours a week in my own sports injury clinic, and writing the book. And it's just like, she's like, Paul, come on, there's more here. It's 10 years on, you can bring this stuff out. And she just dug and dug and dug until she got it all out of me, you know.
It must have been, it's obviously still emotional now, and I suppose that was a bit like a counselling session, just let's lay bare, no holds barred. And that's eventually moved into a movie now as well, which is, I bet you didn't imagine that, did you?
No. I mean, Against All Odds created so much interest 10 years ago. I called them the Jewish Mafia at Chigwell. They financed the movie. When I used to run the doors in Gants Hill in East London, there's a lot of Jewish guys used to go in the club, and I used to look after them. You know, I like I said, I was never a bully doorman. I always, if someone was not violent and they were just a nuisance, I would put them in a taxi. I wouldn't give them a clump like some idiots. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
this particular guy was like that, who now has financed the movie, and you know, it shows karma's a great thing. He remembered me, and you know, he remembered me, and he's read the books, and he's come back and he's gone, look, we need to do this. But you know, you reap what you sow in life. It always comes back, doesn't it? But the movie is an amazing. I mean, I've watched it obviously, and I was on set. And Michael Socher, who's in This Is England, and he's in Chernobyl. Zoe Tapper plays my Anthea, the policewoman girlfriend who was with me at the time, and their performances are unbelievable. They're really, I mean, we can't wait for it to come out, but hopefully it's going to be soon, because it's been bought, and it's got an international distribution company behind it. So it's exciting times, Adam. You know,
Paul, it's brilliant times to get your story out there. How surreal was it being on set, seeing Michael Socher playing yourself? You must have
brilliant, because obviously we're going back to all the old haunts. I was up at my old boxing club, and then we went to we was in Bethnal Green in Repton Boxing Club, and then we went to the old boozer that I used to work the door at in Poplar, and saw the old landlady, and you know, it was very, like, you know, there's quite a lot of reminiscing going on. There's some brilliant times with the door work and stuff. And obviously a lot of the time when they were doing the child abuse scenes, I wasn't on set because it was really upsetting, some of it. And I advised on set, but I wasn't on the shoots as such. And it's interesting because these things are meant to be, I think, because the first little boy that played me, his parents pulled him from the movie because it was too traumatic.
Wow. Okay.
Some of the scenes were too traumatic. Is that the right word? Traumatic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah.
And so the second kid we got who played me, Mitchell, oh my God, amazing actor. And we thought that, these big name actors who we know of would dwarf the kids, but the kids were just as powerful, really were. So really pleased with it. But it's tough to watch. Some of it's tough to watch. There was a scene where Stalin beat me up and then put a cigarette out of my chest, which is it's a true scene. And then when I was on the floor, he pissed on me. And I think that was when they pulled their kid out. They said, we can't do this. He's going to be traumatized. Obviously, it was all done properly. They had all the chaperones and all the counselling and all that. But it's a very powerful movie. It's a story that's got to be told, Adam, and when you talk to people about child abuse, most people want to switch off because it's not their world. But, it's story, most of the kids I grew up with are dead. Why shouldn't they be remembered?
Exactly. It still goes on. Or you hear these stories about it.
Yeah, it still goes on. It's as ripe as it's ever been.
Absolutely.
And I work in the field with lots of people trying to, help, try and advise. I work with Lord Listerwell as an advisor. He was the last ever his hereditary peer. I've advised him, and I worked with Boris a while back as well, and raised hundreds of thousands of pounds for kids literature charities and things. But it's a stone in the ocean, really. There's not enough people giving back, especially people who can.
Well, it's incredible what you're doing, Paul. It really is. If we can go back to your boxing, how good a boxer were you before your injury?
I turned out to be pretty good, and not because I was really interested in it. I just wanted to please the guys. I wanted to please the coaches because they were the first people that showed an interest in me. So I did whatever I had to do, and it's funny because I was still being bullied, and yet I was this brilliant little boxer, and I was still being bullied because I had absolutely no self-confidence out of the ring, which sounds strange, right? And obviously the violence came out later in me. And I had turned pro. I got contracts to turn pro, but I had an accident which prevented that. And that's how I got into the rehab. That's what I do these days is the accident I had, which stopped the pro career.
Well, it was more than an accident. It almost killed you, didn't, Paul?
Yeah, I was dead on arrival. Yeah, I come off a roof, severed my arm off almost, and cut my hand in half. They wanted to amputate my hand.
Wow.
Funny enough, my 10-year-old said to me today, "How many lives have you got, Dad?" He's, I think I've nearly died, and I've been dead on arrival twice, and I've nearly died 5, maybe 6 times in my life so far. So, this fucker's going to get me eventually.
You are one lucky guy at the moment. And so, obviously, after that scope of your boxing, you mentioned before you did quite a few jobs on the doors.
Yeah.
And then there was another life-changing moment when you could have gone to prison for GBH.
Yeah, another scary time. I was doing a door. Funny enough, I used to do a lot of doors in East London, and apart from in recent years where there's been shootings, it was everyone understood what was going on, and I didn't really have great problems in East London. We had violent situations, but it was in Essex, funnily enough, that started to deal with it wasn't Towie then, but it was that mentality when we came out to Essex that guys would pick a fight with you, and if they got the wrong end of it, they'd call the police, which was unheard of for us. If we had a fight, whoever won, whoever lost went to hospital or went home. It never involved the police, but there's a big lack of integrity out in Essex, I found. And I was running a door for a serious, literally, proper people. I won't go into that. In Brentwood in Essex, and 5 guys turned up on the door. It was a big queue. Summer night, never forget it. It was a big queue outside. They tried to walk straight in, and I stopped them. And they said, we're connected. And I went, I don't give a fuck who you are. I know who everyone is, and you're no one. And they didn't like me straight away because I was on that door because I knew who everyone was.
Yeah.
Which, so they weren't connected. Anyway, they knew the other doorman, and he asked me as a favour to let them in. And against my better judgment, I did. Within minutes of them being in, the red light's gone off on one of the bars. I don't know if you know, red light is a panic button.
Okay.
So red light's gone off. Barman's pressing the panic button. I've gone over there, realised the other doorman's had it on his toes because he knows who they are and don't want to get involved. So I know straight away I'm on my own. What they've done, they've gone onto a balcony and they're dropping live fag butts down into girls' cleavages. These fucking idiots, right?
Yeah.
5 of them thinking they're gangsters and they're just mugs, right? So I got hold of them and I said, come on, you're out, fucking move. And I thought I was going to have it with them in there. But lucky enough, they walked outside because it would have been chaos if it had gone in there because it was like shoulder to shoulder. You can imagine people would have got hurt.
Yeah.
I thought, all I want to do is get them outside. If they want to have it outside, I'll have it outside. So lucky enough, they walked outside with me, all 5 of them. And one of them, sure enough, the short, stocky mouthpiece decided to headbutt me in the face. And back in the day, I was brought up by old school doormen like Lenny McLean, Ronnie Redruff, people that had integrity. And they used to have an old saying: "It's better to be tried by 12 than carried by 6."
Yeah.
And the strangest thing is, as this all kicked off and the 5 of them surrounded me, I had those words going through my head. You know what I mean by that? Yeah, it's better to just do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And so this geezer's gone to headbutt me. He's telegraphed his headbutt, and I've just slipped inside it and caught him with an uppercut as he's dropped his head down onto my shoulder. He's gone up in the air, and I just followed it up and smashed him into the ground. But as I've gone down on top of him, they're all hitting me on the head with bottles and kicking me. And I thought, shit, if I don't get up, I'm never going to get up, So I managed to get up. And they all sort of backed off, and one of them ran at me, and I ran him through the glass door, put his head through the glass door. And then the other 3 mouthpieces were just like running away. They were gobbing off every time I walked through and running away. So I was covered in blood and thought, well, I've done nothing wrong here. I've been attacked by 5 guys. Surely I'm not going to get nicked here. I was wrong.
Wow, okay.
I was still on the door. Next minute, they've called the old Bill. Like I said, these people are gangsters 1 minute and they're calling the old Bill next. Next minute, they're calling the old Bill, So they described me as heavily muscularly built, blonde cropped hair, and, with 6'2". Well, I was always called the small doorman, right? I'm 5'11", and I probably, at my heaviest, was never more than 14 stone. And, I just knew how to bang, and lucky enough, they would have killed me if I had got up.
Yeah.
But 2 of them, the first bloke had a broken jaw and his teeth missing, and the other one had stitches all around his head and his neck. So 2 of them were quite badly hurt. But if I hadn't have done that, I'd have been the one, I reckon I'd have been a vegetable or dead, one or the other. So anyway, they nicked me, they take me down, and I was dating Anthea at the time. He was a race relations officer in East London. She was a right salt. She's a beautiful girl, and she was. So it was strange to like the doorman and a policewoman, but it worked,
Yeah.
Anyway, they nicked me, take me down to Brentwood Nick. She turns up with some clothes because they're taking my clothes for evidence, and they give her a hard time. Now she's met Metropolitan and they're Essex. And they go, what the fuck are you doing with him? And I'm giving her a hard time. Because it was back in the day where that was concerned. If you were on a door, you were a gangster.
Yeah.
It's very different times, which was not true, but that was the old Bill's perception.
It's that perception, isn't it? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, they give me a load of bollocks. They tell me they're not interested in me. I was attacked by 5 men, and and I was very gullible, to be fair. I just went, do you know what? I didn't do nothing wrong. But they wanted to give me a taped interview, and I said, no, I need a solicitor. So all night long they keep saying to me, there's no solicitor available. There's no duty solicitor available. Now that's bollocks, right? And then the next morning they come back and say there's no duty solicitor available. They bring, they pull every stroke in the book. They bring a nice looking policewoman in with a see-through blouse on with me greasy sausage and beans. Come on, Paul, just talk to us. We're not interested in you. They're wrong and 5-1. So against my better judgment, I give them an interview. They let me go back in 2 weeks' time. They charged me with Section 18 and a Section 20, which is GBH with intent and GBH.
Yeah.
Which is looking at a 10 stretch.
Jesus.
Now, I was attacked by 5 men who were jumping all over my head. So work that out.
And
anyway,
none of them were arrested, no?
No, not at all. So then, like the copper said to me, he said, look, you have a fight, you win, you get nicked, they lose, they go to hospital. I would never believe this, right? But they pulled all kinds of illegal procedures to get a taped interview from me without a solicitor present. They didn't allow me to see a solicitor. And then when we went, I had to wait 18 months to go to Crown Court.
Wow.
And when we went to Crown Court, and I was training in Macpherson at the time, I had to ask for permission to leave the country and all sorts of things. So when we went to Crown Court, my barrister said to me, Paul, if they keep this taped interview in, you've got an 80% chance of a 10-year prison sentence. Sure enough, after the first day, the old Bill standing there lying, this desk sergeant saying, that couldn't have happened. If that was happened, that would have been illegal procedures and that would have made me corrupt. And I'm certainly not corrupt. Of course, the judge goes with the old Bill. They keep the taped interview in. I'm fucked, aren't I?
Yeah.
I'm proper fucked now. So my barrister's saying to me, Paul, take the Section 20. You'll only get a few years. You won't do a 10 stretch. You'll go 3, 4, maybe 5. He said, that's a GBH. The intent is serious. And I said, but I'm not guilty of either of them. I was attacked by 5 men and I just did what I had to do to protect myself. And he said, no, you don't seem to understand. I'm trying to save you years in prison, this barrister was telling me. So I refused to take it. I went all the way with it, which was really a stupid thing to do. Well, I should have took the lesser charge. So the judge is summing up and he turns around and he says, well, clearly Mr. Connolly acted in self-defence here. He was attacked by 5 men. So I'm halfway home, right? The judge has told it's self-defence. But now they've got to decide on reasonable force. Now, what is reasonable force when there's 5 men jumping on your head, right? I think anything's reasonable force in that situation.
Yeah.
But if they decide it's unreasonable force, I'm still going to prison. So I was so convinced I was going to get a guilty. When they come back with a verdict, they only went out for an hour, the jury, on a Friday lunchtime. I was so convinced I was going to just hear guilty. I never heard the not guilty on the charges. And then I'm thinking, why? They say like a smiling jury never convicts. Well, I was so stressed out I didn't even notice they were smiling at what.
Yeah.
And I wondered, why is everyone cheering if I'm in prison? And then I realised. And then literally my legs went from under me and there was a couple of doormen there who I used to work with who literally had to carry me out of the court because I couldn't stand up. The stress had just got to me, I didn't thank the jury. I didn't thank the judge. They just sort of carried me out. You're free to go. That's all I heard. Fucking hell, get me out of here. Because, you're standing there, that one word not, if you don't hear that word not, you're going from there, prison cell, straight to prison for 10 years.
Have you ever thought about what might have happened if you'd have gone to prison? Where would you be now?
I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. I probably wouldn't be alive. Because that was predicted for me by Daphne Starling, that woman that used to mentally torture me.
Yeah.
Every day, you're going to prison. Nobody loves you. You're not normal. If anyone loved you, you wouldn't be. You'd have people looking after you. You're a fucking piece of shit. So I'm, another reason why I was convinced that I was going to get a guilty. So, it's a massive turning point in my life. And now, in violent situations, I just think back to that and think, you know what? You want to be standing there again? You don't want to be standing there again, and apart from the fact I'm nearly sick, I get my fucking arse handed to me probably now,
And then you had another life-changing moment when you're talking about swords before. You had 2 female police officers knock on your door, fit female police officers. I think you've put in the book, and of course you had that perception at the time. What now? What does the police want now?
It wasn't long after that, the old Bill banging on my door again. I'm like, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
what do they want now? Do you know what I mean? Like, fucking leave me alone. Anyway, I didn't answer it for quite a few days. I'd look out the window and go, what do you want? Fuck off. And they go, Paul, we need to talk to you. And then, of course, I clocked. Normally, when they'd come for me, the old Bill, they would have surrounded the house, and they'd have dogs because they knew what I was like, so they would surround the house. And there's just two right swords standing at the door, and I'm like, well, they ain't come to nick me with these two. You know what I mean? So I opened the door, and then they let me have it. They said, like, are you formerly of St Leonard's Children's Home? I said, yes. And they said, we have to inform you that there's an operation Macpherson, which is being heard at the Old Bailey about decades and decades of child rape and abuse and child abuse by your former carers. And then they said to me, I'm afraid out of the 8 boys in my dormitory, there's only you and one other left alive, me and Maxwell. And then they killed me with the fucking big one. Liam had died. Liam had killed himself as well.
And you saw red mist and you got in touch with someone to get you a gun.
Yeah.
What were you going to do?
I'm going after these fuckers, right? Because what happened was, this wasn't instant. Like, we thought they were all going to get banged up and get real proper sentences, right? So there was 3 of them in the dock, and there was a lot more than 3, by the way. The women couldn't be convicted of anything, and yet they were fucking they were up to their necks in it, the women as well. But they had Aidan Davis, Alan Prescott, and Bill Starling were in the dock. Alan Prescott was the superintendent of children's home, who was in charge. Bill Starling was the guy who used to beat the shit out of me on a daily basis, my house father. And Aidan Davis was one of the staff there as well. The only significant prison sentence was 14 years for Bill Starling at the Bailey. Now, Davis and Prescott got let off because apparently vital video evidence went missing. Now, Prescott was a councillor, a magistrate. He was involved in the Labour Party. He was well connected. And funny enough, his evidence all went walkies.
Missing.
Yeah. So it's not a conspiracy theory, that's a fact. Right? So Davis and Prescott walked away with 18 months served. And Prescott...
18 months?
18 months served, yeah. And Prescott was then given a job back in the London Borough Tower Hamlets. I don't know the big fucking title to the job, but he was second in charge of the whole council. He was given another job back where he came from.
No wonder you saw red mist then. No wonder.
Yeah, well, this is all in the movie. What happened then? I got myself a shooter. I was obviously connected in that, and I was like, well, these two have got to go. And I was going to do her and all. The one who used to mentally torture me, I was going to do them all in one day.
We literally, you were in that mindset. That's it.
Oh, God,
I don't care.
Yeah, I couldn't. Well,
wow.
It was just massive dilemma, right? You got to remember, fundamentally, I'm a good person. I know it's probably hard to believe the way you're talking to me, right? Fundamentally, I had a moral code. I never hurt anyone in my life that didn't deserve it, that didn't have it coming, that wasn't bigger than me or badder than me. I would never, ever pick on anyone smaller than me. I was never a bully. So my moral code was always there because I was brought up by people that stamped that into me. My boxing coaches stamped that into me. Right? You do never take a liberty with anyone weaker than you. That's not on. That doesn't happen. And that was in me. And that was in me before that anyway. So, you know, I thought to myself, do you know what? These guys, there's no one left. There's only me. If I don't do this, no one's going to do it. Why can they still be walking around? Why are they still walking around? They're responsible for dozens of deaths and they've caused mayhem, absolute mayhem. This children's home had 300 kids in. Do you know how many people they abused over the years? Do you know how many people? And they got away with it. And they still got away with it, you know. And so the plan for me was to do all 3 of them in one day. And do you know what? It's really strange that you have this massive dilemma. You know, when I turned into a nutter, when I stopped being this frightened kid, I used to enjoy the violence. I used to say, like, you know, kill me, fucking kill me. You know, please put me out of my misery. and I would want someone to kill me. So if I was in a really heavy duty fight where everything was going on, you name it, I used to think, fuck me, this would be a right relief if this fucker kills me. And they never did, because I was always prepared to go further than them. I was prepared to go to the death, and not many men are prepared to go to the death. So you've already won before you even start if you don't care. And that's why people were frightened of me. Well, that was the mindset I went back into when I went after them.
And then
But
you had, you had
yeah,
two monumental moments that day. There was one when you were in the pub.
yeah, there was two. But this definitely goes back to the seventh son of the seventh son thing. I've had some really strange things happen to me in my life where I can't explain them, and this was one of them. Like, it's almost like it's just someone there just pushing me in another direction all the time. I know it sounds weird, but
No, it doesn't. No.
So I watched them for a little while. I went in the boozer. I knew where they were. I found out it was the people that were connected to me told me where they drank and who they were and where their regulars were, because there's people you can talk to that can find out anything about anybody. So they gave me all the information, and I watched them a couple of days, and they fucking, people are creatures of habit, didn't they? Boozer, 1 o'clock, straight in the boozer, a couple of drinks, off home, walking down the road, like, but one of them went one way, one of them went the other way, and then I had to get back out to Essex from East London to do all three in one day, and that was the plan. So I was going to do them two first, and then go back and do her. So I went in the boozer. I checked the browning out. It all worked. The shooter all worked. Fucking popping off. It was nice. It was like, this works. It was all proper looked after. And then I had it loaded, safety off. Went in the boozer. Two of them standing at the bar. Stood with my back to them. And as I walked in, it's a bit hard to explain. I walked past the door, and there was no one there. I thought there's only 2 or 3 people in the boozer. As I turned, I took the safety off, put the gun at the back of Prescott's head. I went to pull the trigger. I'm not bullshitting you. There was this girl in the corner of the pub by the door. She wasn't there when I walked in, and she was crying, and she was almost lit up. This girl was like lit up. Honestly, it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
And it just stopped me in my tracks. It stopped me in my tracks. I didn't know what the fuck to do. And she was mouthing like, "Don't do it," or something like that. I can't remember now. This is so long ago.
Yeah.
And it was just that split second that just sort of dropped me out of it. And I saw them run. They legged it. They saw the gun, and they both run. And as they were running, it was a bit too late then, because I hesitated. And then I run out of the boozer, run to my car, and I was smashing my head against the fucking garage door like, what the fuck is wrong with you? The people you've been up against, these pieces of shit, you should be able to kill them with a fucking blink.
Yeah,
I've been up against proper people, like knife fights, do you know what I mean? Where it was, my life depended on doing the right thing. I thought this would have been the easiest thing I could have ever done. And it wasn't. It wasn't because I didn't want to kill them. It was because of this being that had appeared. Now, when you tell people this shit, and this is in the movie, and they actually film it where it actually was literally what happened, people, they look at you like you're insane. You know what I mean? What the fuck are you talking about? So anyway, I ran out the boozer, drove home, and then obviously I was beside myself, and I was like, you fucking let everyone down, absolutely beside myself. And then I just got more and more depressed, more and more irate, more and more, I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs, I just was getting in a right state. And then I sat down in my lounge, and I just got up, took the safety off, smashed the gun in my own mouth, knocked the bleeding teeth out, didn't I, the front teeth, cocked it, went to pull the trigger. I was in so much of a dilemma. I just thought, you know what, this is the easiest way. And I don't know what you read in the book, but I had a cat.
Yeah, sausage.
Yeah, sausage, yeah. Well, this cat was the most affectionate cat you'd ever seen in your life. And she used to sit on your lap and snuzzle into your neck and dribble in your ear. Right? She was just the most affectionate. And you know what? She stopped me, because I thought, who the fuck's going to feed this cat? Who the fuck is going to look after this poor little sausage? And I was so connected to this cat, which sounds ridiculous, right? This big gangster fucking like loves the cat. But she fucking stopped me. She stopped me. And
Wow.
and I was I was in bits, and then I just launched it. I launched the shooter in the Thames.
If you ever came across that woman in the pub again, say if we could rewind, what would you say to her?
Oh man, it totally changed my life, because obviously I wouldn't be here now. Wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. I mean, I don't think she was of this earth, to be quite honest with you. It's really strange. I've had quite a few things like that happen to me, and I just don't think she was from here. Do you know what I mean? Because the funny thing is, when I ran out the pub, she wasn't there. She wasn't, and I had to run past her to go through the door. And
Wow. Okay.
And I thought about it afterwards, thinking she wasn't there when I ran out the pub. She wasn't there. But I've had so many strange things happen to me. When I was in hospital, I nearly died when I was 49 from a endocarditis. I don't know if that's in against all odds. I don't think it is. No, it's not, because that book was out when I was in hospital. It's in the new books. So, long story, but this is another weird thing, right? Kids had to come up and say goodbye. Joe had to say goodbye. I was 76% infected. You die of organ failure at 60% infection.
What?
Big black guy appears at the side of my bed in Basildon Hospital. Says to me, "Paul, can I talk to you? Would you mind if I hold your hand and say some comforting words?" And I said, "No, by all means do that." Now, they said to me I wouldn't be there in the morning, and this big black priest, Joseph, his name was, he started saying these really comforting things to me, and just felt really nice. And then I was there in the morning. I was on a trip for 5 weeks, went down to the church, went down to everywhere to find Joseph, the big black priest. Never, didn't exist. Joseph didn't exist. But Joseph saved my life. And Joseph was in a spirit world. He's called a walk-in. And ever since then, which is nearly 10 years ago, nearly all my work has gone from PT to healing and injury rehab, nearly all of it. And I heal people now, and most of it you can explain through, science, but some of it you can't. And I also had, in 2 or 3 times in my 20s, little Irish bloke on a train once, when I was on a train in Bethnal Green with 2 big black geezers. We were going off to do something horrible, and we had shooters on us, and this little Irish fella said, "Oh, so you're the chosen one, are you?" And these black guys started laughing. He said, "You're the chosen one, so you're the chosen one." And I knew what he meant, and so I wasn't really laughing. I was saying, "Yeah, all right, mate, go on, sling your up." And he was like, "Yeah, you're the chosen one." I said, "Yeah." He said, "The 7th son of the 7th son, so you are."
So what he
Total
said?
stranger. Yeah, and I am the 7th son of the 7th son. And I was like, "Fuck, how does he know I'm the 7th son of the 7th son?" So he said, "Do you know what? One day you're going to be a great healer." He said, "You're going to be an amazing healer, Paul. No, you're a violent man. But when your violence subsides in your 50s, you're going to be a great healer." And that's basically what I do now. That's mental, isn't it?
It is mental. It's hard to get your head around, really.
And I can tell you things that, you'd probably have to edit out, because no one would believe them, the stuff that's happened to me.
Are you religious, Paul?
I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. I believe in energy and spirituality, and I believe that we are spirits living in spirits, or soul living in, having a human experience.
Yeah.
And we need to learn the lessons of this life before we move on to the next level. I'm not sure about. I don't believe in like conventional religion, and I've had too many things happen to me for there not to be. I saw a clairvoyant 10 years ago, and she told me I'm going to play myself in a movie of my own life story in Hollywood. Well, it's happened.
It's happened.
Yeah, I'm at the end of the movie as myself. Like, when you see the real guy at the end.
Yeah.
And
That's
how did you know that?
Again, that's people's. It's perception, and people don't want to go to a clairvoyant. But I've heard many stories of like what you just touched on before. How the fuck do you know that?
They know it because we all have guardian angels, and they sit there and they're talking to your guardian angel, and the guardian angels, a lot of what our life is already mapped out, isn't it? So many times, like that movie Sliding Doors.
Yeah.
Go down the wrong road, or you miss the train, and everything's different. right? So many times I've got guardian angels. They've just pushed me in an opposite direction. You're going that way. Even like when I got stabbed with a screwdriver, like, all right, it was one of the other doormen that pulled me away, but another inch or so, and
That'd be you.
yeah, I've been stabbed 3 or 4 times. Even when you face up to your fears, often what you're frightened of doesn't happen, but what you're not aware of, what you've never thought about does. You come to the conclusion we can't control anything. We have no control over anything. It's already there. It's already mapped out. All you can control is how you deal with things, how you perceive things, how you manage things. People who try and control things, you're fighting a losing battle. Like what's going on right now.
Exactly. You used the word karma before. What's meant to be will be, and it will go back and bite somebody in the arse.
I believe so. And obviously karma's not necessarily just for this life. The karma goes for the next realm, the next realm, the next realm. We're not just a body and a brain. We're far more than that, and we go on and on and on.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. I've had too many things happen to me, some of which I wouldn't even say to you because you'd think I was a crazy person. I've had just too many things happen to me for it not to be so.
And what do you say to your family and your kids? Do you have these types of chats with them about spirituality?
The kids love it when I do Reiki on them.
Do they? Yeah.
Yeah. If they can't sleep, they often go, "Dad, do Reiki on me," and they go off. They've all got their crystals and their stones. And my little one, he's only 10. He's got all his lights and stuff, and they love it. They love all that. And children are very spiritual. As we grow up, we lose it. Children. My little one's been here before. He's a very spiritual kid, really spiritual kid, very emotionally intelligent, very in tune, very in tune. It's just amazing. We tend to become far too practical as we get older, and we don't. I've healed my dog twice with Reiki, where he's been shaking and been sick, and I've just worked on him, and all of a sudden he's jumping around like a puppy again. And my wife, who used to be really cynical, really believes in it now, because she's seen it with her own eyes.
Have you got any plans to, write a book about that to promote it?
What about the healing and the Reiki? Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, funny enough, I can't emphasize enough. When nearly 10 years ago, when I was in hospital and I nearly died, and Joseph appeared at the side of my bed, I was literally doing 100% PT and a bit of sports massage. I've had 6 scoliosis operations cancelled for kids with severe back conditions where I've treated them, got them well, and rebuilt their bodies in the gym. I could tell you stories all day long in the last 10 years of the people that I've helped. I have GPs come here, I have consultants come here, the people I've helped that no one else seems to get rid of their pain, and I can get rid of their pain. And it's in me. It's absolutely in me. And it turned around ever since that incident with the hospital. And it was predicted for me as well. But it's not voodoo healing. It's like a lot of it is common sense. It's like, overwork muscles, release them, mobilize, lengthen the muscles, get the body, be consistent with the treatment, bring the pain down, then start to do the rehab, then start to rebuild the body. It's all common sense stuff, but also there's just that extra element of the energy healing and being able to, lay hands on people at the same time. And when you're treating them, they don't realize you're putting all that extra energy into them. I get people out of pain that no one else seems to be able to do it. And, it's really rewarding. It's really frustrating right now because I can't do it, but it's really rewarding.
So how, if people want this type of treatment, how can they get hold of you?
Well, unfortunately, I'm based in Essex, so obviously I can't sort of, but I do have clients where I sort of travel with them. But if they look up specialistconditioning.com or on Facebook, that's my company, specialistconditioning.com. And I people travel. I had a woman move from South America to Essex for me to sort her back out. She's gone back now. I get people out of pain, and it's just very rewarding. And it just, because I'm a specialist conditioning coach, not only can I look at their muscle density and release everything off and get the angry muscles out, release it through myofascia, get everything released and bring their pain down with consistent treatment. Then I've got the knowledge to be able to rehab them and then rebuild them in the gym, you see. So it's a bit of a one-stop shop, whereas, most people can't do that. It's quite unique. So I do have a lot of demand, It's quite hard doing it. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and I'll pull the links to your site, etc. on my YouTube, because it's fantastic what you do. There's a couple more areas to cover. We've got to talk about Elle Macpherson, the body.
Yeah,
how did you get that gig? What happened?
It's not as exciting as you think, really. I did the pilot video for the body video.
Okay.
And then, to be fair, I'm not allowed to talk about a lot of it because it's all confidentiality agreements. But I've worked with quite a few celebrities. A lot of them I haven't been able to put in the book because of those confidentiality agreements. So that I've worked with, if you go back to the 80s and 90s, you're talking about Mickey Rourke had a gym in the Marina area of LA. So you think about some of the big names that are around then. I've worked with most of them, but I really can't go into it too much because you sign these contracts, unfortunately. But yeah, it's one of those things you can't really talk about. You're not allowed to. So I wished I could tell you more.
Did you almost set up a life over in LA, Hollywood? Was that opportunity there? It
could have been, yeah. It's one of those things where they love the British trainer out there, and they love, I got on really well out there. But unfortunately, while I was working out, I wasn't legal, so I had to come home. I would never been able to gone back there, you see. But I was back and forth. I spent a lot of time in the Bay Area. I worked at Pacific Athletic Club in Silicon Valley. I loved America, and I loved working there. It was great.
That's amazing, Paul. And finally, we're in March. We're in the middle of the pandemic, which is ripping through the world. So we've got to talk about this. I really want to ask you, because of your background and your skills as a personal trainer. Obviously, on Boris's list is to do 1 bit of exercise a day.
Yeah.
Why should people be doing this?
Because we know the endorphins that are released through exercise are great for your mental health. Everybody knows that. But at the same time, if you can imagine, if people are stuck in a flat or a small house with a whole family, even the mildest mannered man or woman, it can become a bit too much. Not everyone's got lots of grounds and places to move around.
Yeah.
And obviously, just for sanity, if you just went out for a power walk, that's going to help a hell of a lot. A hell of a lot. And a lot of people in the spiritual world think this thing's been sent to us because we need to learn a lesson. We need to stop with the fucking money and with the cars and with the showing off and with all the, the Facebook nonsense. We need to actually connect with people. We need to actually care about people and not things. We need to care about the planet, because this is an eye-opener, right? At the end of the day, global warming is a far bigger threat than this thing, than Corona. And nobody's taking any fucking notice of it.
No.
And this is a huge thing. So often these things are sent to us to teach us a fucking lesson. And we need to learn that people, animals, the planet, everyone around you, and you need to care for it. You need to love it. You need to look after it. You need to fucking stop just chasing money to the point where we're going to destroy the world. Do you know what I mean? It's just,
yeah, I do. Yeah.
We've got my children. It's not even my children's children. I'm worried for my own children.
Yeah.
Not my children's children. And people need to learn that people are more important than things and animals and the planet and everyone around us. We need to stop being fucking greedy. You can only drive one car. You can only live in one house. What the fuck? The greed of mankind. People need to just wake up and smell the coffee. Do you know what I mean?
Paul, well said. I could not have said that. You've put, you know, a great explanation behind it. You really have. How do you think the government have handled it, especially somebody like you with your own business?
Well, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, right? At the end of the day, I'm losing money. Everyone's losing money. But if people did what they were told and they stayed at home, this thing would be over much quicker.
Yeah.
Then and we'd all stop losing money.
Yeah, but they're not, are they?
No, there's always fucking idiots who think they're untouchable,
Yeah.
who will want to do the opposite to what they're told. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of, this is shown, you know, that NHS workers and essential workers, there's a lot of good, caring people out there who are doing their best. And if they're not being supported by these fucking idiots, right, what is the point? You know, there's always an element of, say, like, I don't know, 10% of people who think they're untouchable. And we're all connected. And if they fuck up, we all fuck up.
Yeah.
And the problem is that they're going to eventually have to legislate, you know, to the point where we are locked in because of just morons.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolute morons. You know, this is the most serious, you know, thing that we've had that I can even think of, and yet people are still flouting the rules. As soon as, you know, we realised, I had to shut up shop, and you know, and I've got people that are in pain. I've got people that need to see me. I can only do so much on Skype.
Yeah.
But you know, the common sense thing is, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. You can catch this and you can die from it, and it's really serious, and it's very, very serious. And if we don't all do our bit, it's going to go on and on and on and on and on. So we as human beings, we all need to look after ourselves and look after each other. You know, what is so hard about that? You know, I understand the pressures, the financial pressures, but the government have made announcements. They are doing bailouts.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's obviously, again, it comes down to money, doesn't it? I understand people who are frightened and they need to work to put food on the table, but the ones that are, you know, are just trying to profit and they don't need to, that's abhorrent. That's just disgusting. You know, for God's sake, all this, it was only a month ago, everyone was talking about, oh, be kind on social media. And as soon as the shit hits the fan, it's all, fuck you, Jack, I'm all right. You know, why don't people, it's when people's loved ones start dying, then they'll take it seriously. And then they've left it too late.
And you know what, Paul, I've said this to people this week to try to get into context. Boris Johnson said, this is the biggest thing since World War II.
Absolutely.
World War II, you could fucking hear the bombs. You could hear the aeroplanes. People will go to the shelters. There'd be no dicks. Oh, let's go down the park to sunbathe.
Yeah.
Because this is a invisible disease. As you've just said, people are still not taking it serious enough.
They're not. And because they think they're invincible, because somebody tells them they're not going to be told what to do. But you know what? At the end of the day, when their auntie or their granny or their brother or their mother dies of this thing, let's see how fucking cocky they are then.
Well, they'll be the ones all over Facebook. Don't go out. Don't do this.
Yeah. And you know, we're all hurting financially, but this is far bigger than that.
Yeah.
This is far bigger than that. You know, and it's, you know, I just don't understand some people. Yeah. You know, I think it's either lack of intellect. I don't know what it is. It's just, we live in a very, you know, social. It's things like reality TV where people start to believe that shit's normal. You know, they've lost the connection. They've lost the empathy.
Yeah.
They've lost the sympathy. They've lost the connection with fellow human beings, and it's almost made that lack of empathy come out nationally. You need to care about people. You need to love people. You need to care about what happens to, if it's not just about your immediate family. If you don't care about your society, we're fucked. As a species, we're fucked. You know.
Completely agree. Paul, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Really, as I think you're an incredible person, and you've gone through so many traumas in life, you wouldn't even wish on your own enemy. But then again, in your case, maybe you would wish on some of your enemies. Thank you so much, Paul, for coming on Behind the Life. And I know your film is going to be a huge hit, and you deserve it. You really deserve it.
Thanks, Adam. Lovely to speak to you.
You too, mate. You take care, Paul. Thank you so much.
Thanks, mate. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Ta-ra. Bye.
Bye.
And that was another episode of Behind the Life podcast with myself, Adam Lambert. Please give me a follow on Instagram at Behind the Life Podcast, Facebook, Behind the Life Podcast, and if you listen to this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button below as well as the like button. I'll be back soon for another episode. For now, take care.